Good evening, everyone. We haven't seen each other enough in the past week, so we get to see each other again tonight. I will call to order the Select Board meeting of Monday, April 4th, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we start out with a public hearing for the transfer of Black Cow's all alcoholic beverage license. So, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Attorney Marcy Costa McDermott, Quilty and Miller at 28 State Street in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm the attorney on behalf of the applicant, Fox and Fern Holdings LLC. We are here for the transfer application to transfer the license from Beverly Beer Inc. to Fox and Fern Holdings LLC. With me today are the two owners, John Murphy and Scott Ruiz. And also the manager of record, which is Michael Dorati. He's going to be staying at the restaurant. He's the current manager of record. He is a United States citizen and a Massachusetts resident. He has years of experience in the food and beverage industry and is familiar with the rules and regulations of the Town of Hamilton, the ABCC, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He's with us tonight as well, so if you have any additional questions for him, you can ask. The applicant is seeking to transfer the license and continue the operations of the Black Cow as they are. The name will be staying the same. The management will be staying the same. The operations will be staying the same. They previously come from the world of real estate development, and so they are purchasing the property and therefore wanted to purchase this very prestigious restaurant in the town and keep it running so that everyone can continue to enjoy it. The seating, the floor plan, everything is staying the same. Hours of operation, just under some new ownership, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I actually have, about 35 or 40 years ago, there was a Fox and Fern restaurant where Dr. Taylor's family practice is now, and it was in a greenhouse. Is there any relationship? It goes back, you were probably in diapers back then. Just wondering.
We knew it existed, but yeah.
Yes, okay, I was just wondering if there was a relationship there. That was quite a while ago. I don't have any other questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So in terms of the everyday management of the restaurant, that will be continuing in your capable hands? Is that what I understand? Okay. Okay, good. Yes, I think you do a very good job. Okay.
Do you have other restaurants that you manage and own? Yeah. Yeah, do you have other restaurants you own, or just for?
This is their first foray into the food and beverage industry, so they picked a winning location for their first try.
Yeah, welcome to Hamilton.
Yeah, and it's very it's good judgment to keep the same management on board as well as you learn about the good things and the potential frustrations you'll have experience to turn to. So I think that was a very wise business decision.
So what's the timing of all this in terms of what we need to prove this tonight? Because what happens? Sort of what's the timing for all the transfers and stuff?
So the normal course for you all after tonight, sending it to the ABCC, will all kind of move forward as normal, and then their closings on the property and all of the assets will kind of roll in coordination with the license transfer as well. We don't want any operations to close at any point, so the hope is to kind of keep everything moving simultaneously.
And then the name will stay as long as you guys want it to stay? There's not some sunset clause to the name? You can keep the name as long as you want? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're planning on keeping it the same.
Can I ask one other question? Is this a single purchase, or is it in tandem with the Black Cow up in Newburyport? Because I know
Single
it's the
purchase.
same owner. Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
And do you guys have any questions for us? See.
I don't think so. So we've already worked with the Board of Health and everyone else, so I think this is our
Joe, anything else that we're missing on this? Any other
You might
questions?
want to ask if there's anybody that has, anybody in the pub, it is a public hearing, so you
Okay.
might want to ask if there's anybody in the public that wants to make a statement, or there's some. people
Anybody
who might-
in the room would like to make a statement? And anybody on the Zoom, please raise your hand and Joe will recognize you.
Nobody's.
But yeah, it seems, I mean, it's, like I said, straightforward. If everything is staying the same and all you're doing is basically changing papers and names, and obviously risk. But, no, we appreciate you investing in Hamilton, and, we hope that you do well and continue to do well. So we will support your business, so.
May I make a motion?
Yes, please make a motion.
Yes, I move to approve the transfer of the liquor license for the Black Cow.
Is that the proper nomenclature? Just want to make sure we're doing it the right
I
way?
think you should do that, you should close the hearing.
Yeah,
and do
close the
that.
hearing
Close
and
the
then-
hearing, and you do that part in the meeting.
Okay, so
Just
can I have a
agenda
motion to
items.
close the hearing?
Yes, I move to close the hearing.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Unanimous?
No, I think Darcy can make it.
Yes, and now I move to approve the transfer of the liquor license for the Black Cow.
Do you have to say all liquor license, or does it matter how you say it, Joe?
Yes, transfer of liquor license in the singular
Okay, all right.
cow.
Second?
Have a second? Any further discussion? All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for putting everything in order and having all the packets complete. It makes things much easier, so thank you for
It
that.
really does.
Thank you all very
And
much.
hopefully it goes speedily with the ABCC, and,
Hopefully, we'll see you all at the Black House.
Probably
Yeah.
will.
That's really, will you have an opening, a change of ownership, sort of special night?
Probably, yeah, it's gonna, you won't even notice.
Under the radar.
It'll be.
Business as usual.
Well,
Good.
wish you, wish
It'll
you,
be
Yeah.
the same thing.
wish you
Yep.
very, very much luck.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
really
everyone.
appreciate it.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.
That's kind of exciting.
all right, so now we'll move on to our announcements and board openings. So we just had our ATM and got to see how important it is to be involved and stay involved and volunteer, so hopefully other people will be motivated to join one of these committees. But we have a bunch open, I'm going to read all of them. We have one opening for a Board of Realtor member at the Historic District Commission. We have one opening in the Capital Committee, and that's obviously important as we move forward in our planning for this town. Conservation has one opening. Council on Aging has one opening. The Affordable Housing Trust has one opening. The Human Rights Commission has one opening from the Housing Authority. And Hamilton Wenham Recreation Board has one opening for a Hamilton resident. As been preparing for Saturday, there's 40 different boards and committees, so there's lots to get involved with in town. We'll now have a 3-minute public comment for any items not already on the agenda. So since there's nobody in the room, I will look to the Zoom. Anybody in the Zoom have any comments? Okay. All right, now we'll move to Select Board members, town manager reports. I'll start. It's easy for me to start, but not much in terms of reports, other than obviously we had our ATM on Saturday. It was good to have all the dialogue and consensus we built before the meeting, because it made things go constructively well, and we were able to still explain everything and have some good debate. But I thought it went very well. We had 124 people,
163.
163,
Wow.
That's great.
which is great.
163.
Very good.
And everything passed pretty easily, pretty unanimously, so no issues with that. So I didn't have much lesson. I thought the clickers worked well. I thought technology worked well. We had that one issue with the microphone, but I think that was just a bad mic, which was taken care of very quickly. So, so yeah, I thought not a lot of lessons learned. I thought it went very smoothly. Anybody else have any comments on things we should look at for next time? But I thought it went pretty well.
Water.
Water.
There was no water.
Yeah.
And breakfast.
Water and food and beverage.
Food and
Food and
beverage.
Don't wanna
beverage.
get
Joe, we need a food and
dehydrated.
beverage committee. We just need water. I don't think the food always gets
We
n-
should
not
have
eaten.
water, we'll make sure we have water again next
And
time. I
coffee,
apologize for that.
coffee and maybe little sweet rolls or
I'll
something.
buy you a donut next time.
If I could just say, to the food issue, I know that for years the town had some breakfast stuff available. It didn't come without expense, and we typically threw away or had to give away a lot of food. It really was kind of a waste. And from the perspective of, if you're gonna have food for, you don't know how many people you're gonna have, you have to overestimate, you always had too much, and it was money that we're paying, taxpayer money that we're paying for.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
Wenham does the luncheon, but they have like a
the ladies.
The group, right, that gets
Sodalities.
together and does it, so. And if we had a, thanks, Bill. If we had a group to organize it, it'd be a little bit less on us.
It's another committee.
I think that's an unofficial, I don't think.
This
that's
would be, that'd be
it's
like a booster group, a
yeah,
friends of kind of
a
thing.
Friends of kind of thing, that's like an ad hoc committee.
Board of
of the town.
Health.
Friends of Hamilton.
A non-official committee of the town. So.
Okay, all right.
Well, with nobody in the room and only one person on the call, I'm seeking, we'll go through, actually, let's do the rest of this, town and town manager report. So, anything else you have to add, Darcy, before we go to the next agenda?
Yes, there is a planning, I want the public to see and understand that there is a planning board meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, the 5th, at 6:45 PM, where they'll be talking about the 133 Essex Street, Chabaco Trails and Watershed issue. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood. They're gonna be talking about the building design and the landscaping, and that there are calls for removing thousands of trees, replacing them with smaller trees and shrubs. So this is an important meeting that I think people should pay attention to. And that's
Okay.
it.
Jamie, anything?
I don't have anything to report.
Sean?
No.
And Rosemary?
Of course, I have something.
Save the best for last.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that a lot of residents came up to me after the meeting and actually even contacted me by email talking about how impressed they were at how the meeting was run. It was well organized. It was a cohesive group. It was a very relaxed meeting. People were on the same page, and that they especially enjoyed all the appendices that included financial statements and explanations thereof. They felt it was very helpful. They felt that it was a very transparent presentation. So I think that speaks kudos to all the Capcom, the FinCom, town manager, and others who may have had a hand in it. So I'm very grateful to have had such a cohesive working group to get this done.
I agree, and not to overshadow anybody else's efforts, but I also would like to just support, especially thank the FinCom. I think the FinCom puts a lot of effort into this, a lot of hard work, and
Yep.
and their comments and the research they do and the thoughtfulness.
Absolutely.
It was very essential to our making a decision, the town making a decision. So thank you to the FinCom for their efforts on this as well. Two other quick things to note is obviously we have election on Thursday, and the polls are open from when to when?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
7 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the,
Hamilton Wyndham Rec Center,
Rec Center.
16 Porter Street.
so please
Rain or
show
shine.
up and vote.
Yes.
Rain or shine. And then the last thing is it's, as we heard from last week, it is, we're now into April, so it is Autism Awareness Month, so we are all wearing our we're not all wearing bracelets, but they're in your mailboxes.
Oh.
But,
Okay, thanks, Bill.
the BOS
Go get
has
mine.
bracelets, so.
I think they're
So
really,
that's what they
really
see
nice
people on the
bracelets.
It's Autism Awareness Month, so thank you for the Chief Stevens and his team for putting this together. All right, so I was gonna say with the agenda, I see that with not people in the room and with only people joining the call is related to the one-day license for Patton Homestead event. I thought we would tackle that first. So,
Do you want to do the consent agenda? There's just the approved
oh,
banner. at
sorry, I
Patton.
missed that one, it was at the bottom of the,
Banner?
sorry. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous consent. All right, so on the one-day license for Patton Homestead event, so this, there's sort of two topics, one A and one B, and then a second topic. So one A and one B is this vendor has been before us previously for an event at Patton Homestead that we had granted a one-day liquor license for, and they're back for another event because it was so successful, and they want to support the town, support the community. In a discussion we had sort of offline among individuals in the individual on the select board, it was discussed that, recently we made a new one-day liquor license policy for the town of Hamilton. And so the reason in my opinion, and I'll state it, and we can all speak, but in my opinion, we made that policy because the ABCC already regulated sort of nonprofit and profit sales. What it didn't regulate was private, not-for-profit, you know. There's a difference between nonprofit and not-for-profit. So we didn't have a policy in town that regulated the private, not-for-profit, sort of, you know, no charge for alcohol, open bar, private event, unregulated. And at that point, we decided to, you know, supersede the ABCC and have a catering 12C license for those type of events at Patton Homestead. What Rosie brought to my attention was that 12C catering license, I think if you, and I don't have it in front of me, and Joe, we need to sort of look at it, but does that 12C supersede any event at Patton Homestead? So even if you have a for-profit or not-for-profit in your wine or beer, you know, conveyor, do you need to have a 12C catering license to sell beer at Patton? That was not my intent of that bylaw. So I think we need to discuss that, because right now we can't, if that is actually in our revised bylaw, we can't actually, until we either vote to accept a, you know, I'm losing the word, but, yeah. So I just wanted to go around and talk about that. So once
Yeah.
again, we lost, Paul's on the, so Paul, and this, obviously it's not your issue, it's our issue, we have to discuss internally before we sort of turn it to you, but that was sort of new information to me, you know, over the last 24 hours.
Yeah. You know, I will just make the comment that I understand this event has been planned, and certainly I, as much as anybody, wants to see the Patton Homestead succeed. So I don't think it would be unreasonable to make the stipulation that we, if the board agrees, approve this particular license, and we, with the understanding that we will be reviewing the important information in the policy to decide just exactly what we want and don't want the policy to include in terms of a 12C license.
I appreciate that, and I would be in favor of that. I just want to make sure that we are allowed to do that, Joe, and make an exception for today.
You can make,
'Cause
the board
we're-
can make an exception to its own rules, you just have
Okay.
to.
Make the exception before,
We just have to put the
before you-
conditions on it,
Okay.
basically.
and then we have to do two motions, Joe? Or do we do it at the same motion?
I would,
Probably two.
I would do a motion to to make an exception from the town policy on one-day licenses, and then if that passes, you could entertain the motion to
Yeah.
grant the license.
Okay, so if
Just
I can
clean it
have
that
a
way.
motion to approve an exception for one-day liquor license for Patton Homestead event if you are, for people sponsoring a profit event that is covered by ABCC.
What was the, what are you looking for?
Sorry, what?
I misunderstood. What's the motion you're looking for now? I'm
The
sorry.
motion is for an exception to allow a one-day liquor license at Patton Park following the ABCC.
Pat
No,
Homestead.
Pat
Sorry,
Homestead.
Patton Homestead following the ABCC regulations and not our 12C catering license for this one exception.
So moved.
Mm.
do
And I
have-
would second that. Oh,
Second,
I'm sorry,
okay.
Jamie.
Any further discussion? So I think the further discussion that we need to have on our next meeting to revisit this so we can just get it out of the way and clean it up.
Clean it up, yep.
I think that's fair.
Okay, all right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All's opposed? Unanimous. Okay, so now we can look at the one-day license for Patton Homestead. So I know you're on the call. I mean, obviously, we've met with you before. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but obviously, it's good to hear that you're back to Hamilton and investing in our community, and just give us a little brief synopsis of what you are looking to do within our community over the next year. So we can talk about this license and maybe some future licenses that you might apply for.
Yeah, sure. So it's a concert series. I don't have all the details. I defer to Holly a little bit, but our role in this is to serve with a tip certified, tips approved server. It's supposed to be a sunset event, so I think the hours are roughly
5 to 8:30.
5 to 8:30. There's going to be a food vendor and some soft acoustic music. And we're hoping to do this as a consistent event each Thursday. And certainly happy to come back weekly for licenses and see everyone. But was hoping that we could look at some type of where we maybe schedule them out over a certain period of time and then have periodic reviews along that way. Obviously happy to pay the fees and conform to any conditions or regulations that we need to outside of our standard off-site events that we are used to hosting, at various Appleton farms and things like that. So that's the general format.
So, to stay within our discussion, so this specific motion is just for the one-day license. We're gonna talk, after that, we're gonna talk about, sort of a
Correct.
seasonal license.
Yep.
So so I appreciate those comments. I do wanna
Yeah.
talk about that, but let's do the one-day license now, and then we can talk about a
Yep.
seasonal opportunity. So can I have a motion to approve, I wanna get the wording correct here, the one-day liquor license for Patton Homestead event for Essex
County Brewing.
County Brewing?
So moved.
Second.
Let's have a second from Sean. Any further discussion? All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Yes, okay, so let's move on to the seasonal. So, Paul, you had come to me and said, obviously, that you want to support the town and support this concert series and helps everybody, helps you, helps us, and donate some money back to town, which is great. And you kind of made up a good point that, the fee for us isn't, we don't have a, we tried to look at what the cost of it was to issue a license, right? You don't have a significant, so if you get 20, how many licenses do you think, would you think about getting in the next year if you had to sort of guess right now?
I'd say it's roughly going to be 20. Weather dependent, obviously subject to cancellation if we have inclement weather, but approximately that. Yep.
So it's pretty, so it's what an economy of scale, right? It's a $2,000 investment. He's got to sell, 2,000 beers and make up the
At
money.
20 events, though.
Yeah. So the question is, does it make sense for us to promote repeat business by offering sort of a season? Once again, it can't just be for Essex County Brewing. It has to be sort of in general. We have to look at
Right.
sort of worst case scenario.
Right.
And what it would mean for the town and so obviously I agree that there is an advantage to doing it. I just don't know what the correct math is, so.
Could we consider a pilot program so that we can have time to think and see and?
Yeah, Joe said the magic words is we can, as long as we all agree, we can do whatever we want to do, as long as we all agree and it makes sense and we make the right legal decision.
A little bit there, but yeah.
We are the alcohol governing body of the town of Hamilton, so as long as we do things within the four corners of the, we can make a decision, so.
Yeah, as long as you comply with state law.
Yes, but this is not,
You can make
this is
your
not
local,
state,
you
yeah.
can make amendments to your local,
But state law doesn't dictate what we charge and how often we charge it, so.
Right.
So I think a pilot is a good idea. And I think we kind of talked about even for, not to be more, but we talked about even for the cemetery plots, we talked about how to sort of make that economy of scale if you're gonna buy or sell more. What do people think makes sense for what is the definition of seasonal? Is it more than 5? Is it, I think there's two things to decide. What represents
Is it
seasonal?
an amount or is it a time?
And then what's the amount?
Right, is it a year thing, is it a 6-month, is it a summertime,
So he's
is it
talking
an
about
events?
20 licenses, and that would be approximately 20 weeks?
20 days.
20 days, okay.
They can do, the state allows a single person to come to us no more than 30 times per year.
Okay.
So the limit is 30. So while we're sort of thinking about this in our heads, Paul, have you done this in other communities, and is there any precedent that you've seen that makes sense, just so you can, from your point of view?
Yeah, I would say everyone's battling with this municipality it's all different. So in Ipswich, what we do is we schedule out a series of events. We have, I think, roughly 6 scheduled, and we actually go and we pay it once. So their fee is $30. We pay for that and we get all those licenses at once. It's a little bit of risk on our side, which we're fine, because we end up making it back over the course of multiple events. But we do have, it may rain we have every Sunday at Appleton, for instance, in Ipswich, and it may rain. That's on us. So it is what it is. Our season it's weather dependent. We were thinking about the first one being April 28th, and then you'd go roughly, 5 months, and it's every Thursday. So it will be a prescriptive time and day.
Jump in for just a second, Paul?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
Yeah. Just so everyone is clear for this first, just I don't want to give the wrong impression. The first one is only scheduled for 6 dates. And just because it's the first time that we're trying something like this, we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew.
Right.
I think if it's successful, it makes sense to continue more. And so we would like to have the opportunity and set ourselves up for success to, do that efficiently moving forward, in which Paul is referring to. We would then set up maybe a summer series and then move into the
Right.
fall. But it's definitely, it wouldn't be every Thursday at this point. So for now, it would be from April 28th through June 2nd. We probably would just reassess halfway through the series.
No, we get that. I mean, this, for us, a policy has to be sort of overreaching. I mean, we appreciate what you're doing, but for us, it has to be sort of, has to be, anybody who applies has to have the same rules. But we're using you as a sort of, like you said, a model, a pilot. Sorry, what'd you say the fees were in Ipswich for what you're doing there?
$30.
$30?
Yep.
And what would they charge for a regular one-day liquor license? Do you know?
No, so that's what that is. So it's 25 in Peabody, it's 30 in Ipswich, and I don't remember North Andover, but,
North Andover's, yeah.
yeah,
And what do we charge?
100.
Okay.
yeah.
So the regular price, even if it wasn't in a series for Ipswich, it's $30 per liquor license, one-day
Correct.
liquor license.
Right.
Okay. Oh,
Correct, per day.
yeah.
And the arrangement is obviously to pay for the fee, and I think we're happy to pay whatever fee you require. I think it's about, having multiple meetings, and obviously, like I said, I'm happy to see everyone and do that. So whatever fee you decide is appropriate. Our goal is to, similar to Appleton, we take a % of our proceeds as high as we can, and then we obviously donate back to the appropriate program. In this case, to advance Patton Homestead's
I
mission.
did see that. Yeah, I thought that was
So
great.
whatever it ends up being, we're pretty flexible. I think some of it is just about the time of coming before the board weekly, if we're having weekly events for the first 6.
I wonder too, excuse me, since he's talking about kind of that give back to us from some of the profit sharing, depending on the entity, because I'm talking holistically here instead of just this circumstance, that if they're not giving something back, then maybe there's a different rate than if they are giving something back, because you want to kind of incentivize
It's hard to,
that,
I think it's
right?
hard, yeah, I think
But
it's hard to
figure
incentivize that. I
matrix
think
out.
you almost have to just ignore that, because I think that becomes too hard to manage and incentivize and track.
There's another,
I think that's more just, I
part
think
of
that's more
the
just an added
equation.
bonus than anything else, but I don't know, my opinion. It's appreciated, but it's hard to
hard to
how to
quantify.
quantify it and
or,
manage it
you
and
know.
track it. I was thinking, for me, I was thinking that, once again, it's, not a huge profit center for the town. We're
Right,
not
and-
talking.
and we're not gonna
about-
have a
not
ton
making
of
money
fees
off
for
of this.
sure.
Not a ton. So what I was thinking is that for the first 3 of the year, it makes sense for the applicant to come in to see us. Just 3, make them come in 3 times. You get to, the first one, you never met him before, the second one, how did the first one go, and the third one sort of is, okay, it's going well, right? If they do more than 3, on the 4th one, they just pay the $100 fee, and then that buys them whatever the rest of the season is, right? So they come in 3 times, and we say, okay, you've done well 3 times, and then the 4th time, they don't have to come in, but they basically just pay a $100 fee, and then they get the season, which really, in
3.
theory, could be, I mean,
Could be
then
10,
maybe,
20
then
events
maybe
or whatever,
bracket.
right?
Maybe it's 4 through 20 is $100, and if you go 20 to 30, maybe come in, I mean, once again, it's not a profit center for us, so whether they pay $100, $200, it's not gonna change our tax rate,
Right.
so it's
The
just,
challenge on that,
Yeah.
I mean, this one is like they're meeting weekly, so, we only meet
We may bi-weekly,
sorry, who's
right?
meeting weekly?
So the concert series weekly.
the applicant.
For 6 weeks, right?
Sorry, I'm saying for the first 3 events, they would come in and do it in person, so this is their second event, right? So I'm saying the applicant that we don't know, it would be good to see them more than just once, right? To make sure things are going well, that the event went well, that they're abiding by regulations. After the 3rd event, we're like, okay, they got this. We feel now as protectors of our town, that they're doing the right thing. And then at that point, they can pay a $100 fee and buy sort of buy into that seasonal license, right? Joe, you
Well-
raise your hand or something?
Yeah, well, I think that any seasonal license that the board decides to put forward, I think you should be tied to some kind of a recurring series. So I don't think that you should be, my opinion, I don't think that you should be, willing to enter into a multiple license arrangement with anybody unless it's tied to a specific event. Like this is being
Yeah.
proposed as part of a concert series, right?
Okay.
And that way there's predictability in that event, and we know who the vendor's gonna be, et cetera.
Right.
But to just, say,
whatever.
say the folks from Ipswich Brewing or True North came in and said they wanted to buy a seasonal one, and they're just gonna
Park their
get
truck where they
two,
want
and
to.
then they're gonna get 20 licenses, and then they're just gonna decide when they wanna
Yeah,
set
yeah.
up shop.
We'll see them at
I
Little
think
League
that leaves
games.
way too,
Yeah.
there's way too much
Yeah, I agree with that.
unknown in that arrangement. I think it should be tied to a series or type of event.
Yeah.
So if somebody was proposed, and I'd also say, you're better off doing this for events that are partnered with the town than for private events, because we have a couple of entities that have occasionally come in here to do
Right.
one-day licenses on their private property that aren't
Myopia,
open to the public.
other
And we,
parties,
again,
yeah.
we're limited on the amount of control we have over that event once they get the liquor license. But these events here at the Patton Homestead would, or if somebody wanted to do something every
Yeah.
Friday afternoon on Railroad Avenue, you'd
Right.
have some ability to govern it, because our police are gonna be involved, our town departments are gonna be involved.
I like that idea of kind of a sanctioned
Rather
event
than-
series.
yeah, kind of a town sanctioned
Yeah.
event, rather than.
Because like you said, somebody could come in and just grab a seasonal and just kind of willy-nilly pick and choose
Right,
when
and
they're
there's-
gonna do
and there's
stuff,
no
and you
control.
don't have much control over
Right,
it.
I agree. That's what I was going to suggest, that we would consider a seasonal license or a series license. I like your idea. I think it's great to really, because this is new to us, it's really important that we are able to have some oversight on this. And I agree with you about coming to us for the first 3 times. And then if that works well, then give the other 3 licenses. So this is, I see this as a pilot program, and then we can analyze what could we do better, what kind of oversight could we increase. So I agree. I think it's a good plan.
Strike me too that our fee for one-day license might be a bit high.
Yes.
If Ipswich and Peabody
So-
are charging 30 and 25,
Well-
I think, I might look around if it's.
Yeah, are we the high,
Paul,
Paul, are we one of the highest in the area that you've seen?
Oh, yeah, you win the prize there, yeah.
See,
So
again,
we should look at kind of our economy of scale
So
with
we're
that
gonna
too,
open
because,
up on the agenda next time, so we'll look at that too.
because if we're charging 100 and everybody else is charging 35 to 50, if you're talking Beverly or Peabody, they're probably doing dozens and dozens of
Oh,
these.
yes.
We only do a dozen a year
Yeah, a
maybe,
dozen,
or
right.
something like that. So, find some kind of a
Happy medium. man.
happy medium there.
yeah, I agree. I
So,
agree.
Paul, when do you come back in front of us for the next one?
You can come on the 19th if you want to put it
6
on the.
dates set so far.
Yeah.
The next meeting, yep.
So it'd be Tuesday, the 19th.
Tried to get 2 for today, or
All right, so we're gonna have to talk about, I mean, you're welcome to stay on. I think we're gonna debate this a little bit more, and then we will put this on the next agenda so that hopefully we can move this forward, and so you don't have to keep, But does that make, I mean, once again, you're just a representative of many people who may come to us with this ask, but does that make sense to tie it to, as a purveyor that does this a lot, does that make sense to tie it to a series rather than just, because that's kind of what you're coming back to us because you're gonna be going to the same, you're sort of teaming up with this group and doing the same thing over and over again, correct? Or are they different events for you?
100%. Yeah, I absolutely think it makes sense to bracket it and have that interval. I mean, I think to Ollie's point, this is a pilot for us as well, right? And so I think having these interval connection points is appropriate because we want to make this value added for community connectivity and human collisions meaningful of families and things like that. So I think this needs to be a full partnership, and the only way we're going to learn is if we have these touch points. So I think something like 6, and we have them all planned out, and we can communicate them and everything. It helps for attendance as well when you're consistent for this type of pilot or series, and you put it out versus just announce it, that week. So I think you're right on the right track. So.
Okay. So, yeah, I think we're gonna continue to debate it in theory, and then I would say is that we'll put it on the next agenda, and if you can come prepared for the next, whatever,
Yep.
how many events, so we can sort of look at it holistically for you as a pilot program, and other people who might wanna do it can sort of learn from what we're doing tonight, but Joe, how should we write it up? Is this something that?
So, you already had said that you wanted to look at the one-day license regarding the 12C issue
Right,
anyway. So
yep.
I'm going to pull that policy out, and we'll look at a way to make some, we'll come back, bring it back to you, and then we'll, pencil in some potential revisions and additions that would allow, like I said, perhaps a change in the fee, perhaps a a mild rewrite, if the board wishes, on the 12C aspect of things, and,
Call maybe an event,
And
instead of
adding-
calling it seasonal license, call it an
Seasonal-
event series license.
series
Yeah,
license.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that,
so.
and
Yeah.
That's a good name.
I
It's a
think-
little more
yeah,
succinct, right?
Succinct, right.
Shall I make a motion?
We're not ready yet. I think we're gonna talk about it next time, right?
Yeah, I don't
Did
think.
did we approve the one for the
We did,
28th?
yes.
Okay.
You
Just-
approved the
No,
one
he's
for the-
he's
for the
approved,
first-
yeah, no,
you
he's all
approved it.
set.
This is just discussion about.
This is discussion
the
about how
series.
to,
Yep, they're all approved for their one day.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote on, I don't think.
Just
you
and
need to
Paul,
vote.
Paul and Holly, is there anything else that you wanna, that we should be thinking about as we formulate our
No,
policy?
no, I think you nailed it. I think that's good, and having, like, you use words like sanctions and series and stuff like that, I think that kind of puts you through the right toll gates in order to make sure that there's not the Wild West, which obviously you don't want that. So
Right,
I think you're right. You're spot on. So
Holly, this is your chance to market here, so what, give us the dates and the times we need to be at the Patton Estate.
Thursday evening.
Yes. So as of now, the event series will be starting April 28th. It's from 5:30 to 8:30, and it will repeat weekly until June 2nd. And I just want to say, I really appreciate your consideration and being flexible for this policy because, for instance, you know, Beth and Paul are local and all they want to do is, you know, support the Patton Homestead and help me be successful. And just because they happen to be in the industry, which serves beer, you know, we want to work together to try and make it so they can help us in any means possible. And we don't want them to be prohibited by a policy that doesn't make sense for this particular situation. So I really do appreciate your flexibility. And I look forward to hearing continued conversation as this develops. So I thank you for hearing it. Additionally, I'm sorry, I was having some computer trouble earlier. Was the banner discussed?
It was approved in consent. It wasn't really discussed that much, but you can
okay.
go forward with your plans for a 4x8 banner.
4x8, excellent. Okay.
I knew
Appreciate
that's what
that.
you were looking for, was the size.
What was that?
You're all set. No, that's great.
Does anybody have any questions for me as to the series, or do you all feel comfortable with proceeding?
No,
Go
that's
for it.
great. No, thank you,
That's
thank
great.
you. No, much appreciated.
One thing, if I could mention, it's not soft acoustic. It is amplified. Is that okay?
great.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay. Sorry, Paul.
Oh, it's not going to be Def Leppard, right? I mean,
Right.
No, but we do have some pretty phenomenal folks coming in too, and they're excited to play. But more than one acoustic guitar. Starting with Local 28, and I'm not sure if any of you guys know that, but they are a local band, and I think there are 5 musicians. It should be terrific. So
Yes.
I won't take any more of your time, but thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks,
you.
Holly.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Paul.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, no, I think that's good dialogue, and I look forward to talking about it next time. Just want to make sure. So yeah, so Joe, there was two things on the agenda, but did we cover? One was the transfer liquor license for Black Cow.
You've done
So
that.
okay, and then the other one was the
We
Victualers
wanna approve
license.
the common victuals license.
Yeah. Do we already do that too?
No, you did not
Okay.
do
We
that.
haven't done either of them.
We said the
you
liquor
did,
license, we
You
did.
took up the
approved the
liquor license
transfer
right
during
after
the
the public
public
hearing.
We voted after we closed the public hearing, then we voted on it.
Sorry.
That was-
Come on, Jamie.
I really have a fever tonight or
You
something.
voted
I don't
for
know.
it, so. The good news is you voted for it.
Yeah, you voted in favor of it, so you're good.
Yeah, that's the good news.
It's been a long
So-
week, Jamie.
Anything we need to talk about? Can I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve the common victualers license for new management of the Black Cow.
I have
I'll
a second.
Second.
Second, Rosemary. Any further discussion?
Now this kind of just goes hand in hand with the transfer of the liquor
Exactly,
license and
yeah.
everything else.
All right.
We didn't
Vote.
vote.
Need a
All
vote.
those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. And then I had just on this topic, I did have a question for Joe on the common victualers license regarding the new Asbury station that opened up recently,
So they
and
don't
Joe
need a
said
common
they don't need one because they don't actually,
They're not serving
serve
any
anything.
prepared food yet. They've just got their 3-bay sink installed and all the other things they needed to do to meet health code. And they're going to shortly be introducing coffee, but they won't do that before they come in and get their CV. So
all right, so that's
didn't
why they
need
haven't
it.
had, they need
Well,
one.
they
Where
don't
is
need
this?
it until they start selling
Asbury
coffee.
Grove.
Asbury
Yeah.
Grove.
Oh, the
just-
little place in Asbury
Yeah,
Grove, yeah.
that's so
Well, the
sweet.
new station, they opened up the 2 service bays is now a store and they sell all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff, wine,
In
beer.
touch with Lori actually this
Yeah.
past week, so.
Okay, good. It's a great little spot. It's on the way
It's real-
home, too.
It's really sweet, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had a tour of the area a few weeks ago, and they were showing me that. I thought it was a great idea. Little out of the way
Um,
place.
All right, so the next item is the Regional Public Health Intermunicipal Agreement. I may discuss and vote.
Yeah, so,
Joe,
this
you want me
is,
to send that one?
yeah, so you'll recall, you first reviewed this back in December. This is an intermunicipal agreement between the towns of Hamilton, Essex, Rockport, and Wenham to provide the working arrangement for us to continue to use the shared public health nurse that is being paid for 100% by grant. It's a public health nurse and public health social worker. The IMA has now been adopted by the other 3 municipalities, so it really just needs us. We're the lead. We're the fiduciary responsibility. We drafted the IMA with the assistance of KP Law. It's been approved by all the other 3 towns, and we're already using the public health nurse and advertising for social workers. So this is kind of just makes it official.
Okay.
So
I move that we approve the Regional Public Health Intermunicipal Agreement, or IMA, for the regional public health.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify, or just make sure that I understand. It's a 3-year grant
3-year grant.
with state grant with a possibility of it being renewed.
Yeah, so far, the state folks, the DPH is very excited about the program and all the different award recipients. They've signaled that we're likely to be renewed at the end of the term, but we're
Okay. And it's a 40-hour position?
40-hour public health nurse and a 32-hour week,
32.
35-hour week social worker.
Okay. And we would be allotted 25% of that 40 hours? How is that going to
So
work?
the public health nurse and the social worker work on behalf of the entire region on shared issues. So the public health nurse doesn't, work on just local Hamilton stuff or just local Wenham stuff. She's working with the 4 towns' health directors to identify those areas that all 4 towns need assistance. And it's kind of to help us start to sew together the holes in public health net. So that we're getting to all the things that we can get to without having.
So
to
they're not
open-
tracking their time per town.
No, no.
They're getting paid
But she
one
had-
paycheck.
Right, but and they're getting paid through us, but by the state, and they'll have their office is located here in the new public health office.
And then the implementation of their policies would be
Well,
through
is-
our public health nurse?
Yeah, through the public
Okay.
health nurse and through the local boards of health, and the local, if it needs the select board, but usually the Board of Health has that.
Okay. Does the, and these are just clarifying questions, does this public health person, does she have oversight over our Board of Health?
No
Okay,
oversight over them, no.
okay.
But she does work closely with them and the health director.
So
and local public health
collaborative,
officers.
okay,
Collaborative.
okay, good. And I know that the person that has taken that position is top-notch and will have tons of energy and does a great job. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that.
So Joe, who's the quote-unquote manager of this position?
Technically, me,
taking
but
the
in
lead.
consultation with the other 4 towns, I'll stay in touch with the designee from each of the 4 towns. In Essex, for instance, they've made the health director the designee. In Wenham, it'll be the town administrator when he starts. In Rockport, it's the town manager there. So we just kind of monitoring to make sure that the needs of the 4 boards of health are being met. by
And what
each of
about in
us.
terms of indirect costs, like expenses, technology, stuff like that? How does that get?
So the grant included money for laptop computers for the 2 positions and some office equipment. And we put in the grant for salary and benefits, so we're reimbursed for the benefits as well.
It's really good.
Okay.
It really is a no-cost grant for us, which is great.
And then in terms of this position sunsetting in 3 years, it doesn't have any negative impact on any sort of,
No, the nurse was hired understanding there was a grant that has a deadline that continuing in the position beyond that would depend on identifying additional resources to continue the position, and she's well aware of that. And the health social worker will be given the same information when they're hired.
Okay.
That has been more challenging to find. Social workers are not clamoring to get back in right now. It's been a tough 2 years on social workers, so it's been a very, very difficult slot to find, but we'll keep looking.
So on page 4, the compensation rates aren't filled in. I don't, is that,
I can
gonna
get
be-
you those, I don't have it on with me, but they were subject to the grant.
Yeah.
So that when we submitted the grant application, we submitted a recommended pay range for both positions, and it had to be approved by the state. So I can get you that in an email, but I don't have it off the top of my head. Roughly, the public health nurse is being paid around $92,000 a year. The social worker will be in the 70s.
So this piece of paper, we're basically authorizing you to sign it, correct?
Yep.
So you can so we can authorize you to fill in the dates and the rate and
Salary, yes.
sign, because it looked like, it looks like it's signed. Is there any reason you don't want to sign? I mean, right now it's signed by Board of Selectmen of Rockport and and a select board from Wenham. Is there any reason you don't want us to sign? I mean, does it make sense? Doesn't matter to me either
It
way.
was the way the grant, it was the way the
Well, the grant was written.
IMA was put together, and the grant was through me, so they,
Okay.
I'm
Town
fine with
council
authorizing
felt
Joe to
it
do
should
it.
be me.
I mean, we have to authorize them, so there's our authority
That's true.
behind it, right?
So we're taking the lead on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, the money comes through us and we manage the money. And so
I don't have any questions, just kind of a request that we have some type of either annual report or kind of check-in on
Sure.
how things are going at some point, either 6 months or a year out.
So,
Just kind of here's how it's going, it's been working well with the other communities, it seems we're distributing the kind of time and everything like that. Just kind of a general report to us would be great.
Absolutely. We can arrange for that. So 6 months will be around July, and we could try to have a 6-month check-in and then a year.
And it'd be nice to meet
Yeah.
the coordinator and stuff like
Sorry,
that.
when does it
Rachel?
start?
Is it Rachel?
We
Oh, wow.
we hired the position.
Yeah,
already.
that's what I'm
Because
saying.
We had the
She'll
grant
be
money, and
wonderful.
the state was asking us when we were gonna start
November,
spending it. So she started in December.
September.
She started in this role in December, so 6-month check-in will be in July.
Sure, yeah. And I'd just like to make a comment. I worked with Danielle, who's accepted the position of our public health nurse. I worked with her over the past year in the COVID clinics and reconnected at town meeting. And the funny thing is we barely recognized each other without our N95s on. So it was nice to see her again. I'm very excited to see her on board with the position. She's a great person, very conscientious.
And she's jumped in with a lot of enthusiasm as well. And
Yes.
having Rachel move from the local spot to the regional spot, Rachel's still available as a resource to help Danielle learn the ropes, so
Yeah.
to speak, and
Yeah.
they've been collaborating well, so.
So I can have a motion
I think
to authorize.
I think I made the
We have
motion.
a
Oh,
motion in a
sorry.
second, you just,
Well, we have to.
We're having discussion, yep, and it's been seconded.
But yeah.
I'm gonna amend my motion.
Yeah.
I move that we vote to approve and authorize Joe to sign the Regional Public Health Intermunicipal Agreement
And to provide yearly.
and to
report.
provide a 6-month and yearly
Review.
reportage.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right.
thank you. Thank you all.
Report out from annual town meeting. So, we kind of talked about that during our select board reports.
Yeah, I think the Board of Selectmen chair talked too much.
If you don't mind, I'd just like to add from the town clerk, there were 163 people in attendance. She has posted a record of all the votes. The minutes of the meeting aren't quite ready yet. The meeting was only a couple days ago. But she's,
For that?
town clerk Corinne Kale. So she
God,
posted
she's
a
amazing.
record of all the votes to the town website, and this is available for people to see, so that, interest in transparency, and make sure everybody knows exactly how things went at town meeting.
She is scary, I'm telling you. It would take
Incredibly
me
efficient.
3 weeks to get that done. Bravo, Corinne Kale, wherever you are.
Most
She's working
things,
Probably
probably.
down the hall.
She's probably working.
That's Amazing.
Most things moved in about 10 minutes. I kind of usually run the clock on who talks and how long and everything, and kind of the motions and stuff like that. And the average is about 10, 15 minutes, so it was pretty good. I mean, we got out of there at 11:08 or something, 11:10 when we
Something like
closed
that.
the meeting.
Yeah.
I think the only kind of constructive criticism I heard was about it wasn't so much the clickers, it was the screen.
Small.
It was too small for people to see if their vote's registered or not. And part of it, I think, was that we had it on kind of the side screens, and then we used the middle screen for our slides. There was also another comment that it would have been nice if we had all of them at our slides, so people could see the slides on the different screens, instead of just the center screen. And then when we had the numbers up, either, I think one time, I can't remember if we had the bigger screens, because we had that.
Yeah, we rented them, right?
Outside.
We rent them, yeah.
And I can't remember if we had the same numbers on both screens or if it was split between the two. I don't recall, but I remember them being larger so that people could see them a little bit better. I think that's really the only critique I heard, was that people wanted to be able to see their number and know that they
It
hit the
measured,
clicker,
it
yeah.
registered. That's good
It
points.
was nice being inside though, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I kept thinking, oh my God, it's windy and freezing. Do I have enough clothes on? I had to remind myself 4 times, even though, Rosie, you're going inside today. It was
I actually had the
wonderful.
same conversation with myself that morning. I had my
Yes,
jacket.
several
and I was-
times,
I was like,
right.
oh, should I grab a sweater? And I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, I'm going inside, I don't need a sweater. I had to put,
Exactly.
I mean, I think the one thing that got the most discussion was obviously the climate change resolution, which, just to summarize, it's a non-binding kickstart to a much larger discussion. We're not gonna spend any money without having open meeting, open dialogue, votes, approval, so, just wanna make it clear to me, and the people that have concern about it, there's going to be a committee, so you can volunteer and see if you can get elected to the committee, but, that's what we're looking for people to get involved and ask the right questions and make sure we do the right thing, so. I appreciate that discussion, and I'm glad we had that debate.
And I think the only other thing that I could follow up on was when we were talking about capital expenditures, Mark Johnson stood up and asked about kind of our road maintenance program. And I don't think we really gave him an answer, but we did do a study of all our roads and stuff about, 3 years ago now, maybe?
yeah. I know that.
And so
Tim-
we've got kind of a timeline and schedule on road conditions for, thank you, Jamie, for kind of when our maintenance should be on those.
I think Tim has a schedule of road work and, a kind of priority list. We need to do a better job of
Kind of tracking it
being
and keeping up
transparent
with it.
about
Yeah.
that, and let people know what that list is. But, you know, we do have a pavement management plan. We just, it's not in the capital plan because we do it annually and we use
Right.
chapter
Your
90 money
report?
for it, so,
Your town manager's report, could you add that in as a little section
yeah.
on roads?
Yeah, because I think that, I know the capital committee, I think I can't remember if they were around when we did it, or they happened just after when we did the road study. I think it was just after they
It was
formed.
after too.
So maybe that's something we kind of loop in, 'cause, I mean, it kind of goes, I would say that road maintenance study that we did, I kind of equate it to like our patrol cars and DPW stuff. We know it's gonna have to happen in kind of a
Consumables.
cyclical thing, right? So it's not like a one-time capital expense, it's an ongoing
Right.
thing, so it's a little bit different category for me, but still, the capital committee should probably know if we've got a major road repair coming up in the next 5 years or something like that, but I don't think they're really.
Yeah, well, so, the way we look at the capital plan is the capital committee reviews all things that we're looking to spend town money above and beyond.
Right.
We use chapter 90 to manage the maintenance, the roadway maintenance plan, so if we wanted to add, resurfacing of all of Bridge Street, for instance, then that would be, several $1 million project. We'd look to add that, I think, to the capital plan.
Right.
But where we repair the roads in sections or in neighborhoods in a more manageable manner, then we haven't had to put that on the capital plan looking for additional dollars to this point. Although I know that there are folks that want us to spend more money on sidewalks and roads, so if, we'll have Tim come in and give you all a report. We'll add a roadway management section to the town manager report, and we'll have Tim come in, make a presentation at an upcoming select board meeting, and then we'll determine how to tackle adding additional road work to the future.
Is this just the front?
Yeah, they don't give you enough lines, they only have 4 lines there for some reason.
First 4 get to sign it.
First, well, that means I don't get to.
All right. So Joe, in terms of just talk to me through like the process, but in terms of we enter a report into the record, right? So, one of the things I would like to enter in the record sort of is you do your town manager update, but at a certain point, I'm not sure if it gets like, but we should probably just print that out PDF at where its current state and put that as a status too. So back, when you do a time clock, I'm assuming this is just to sort of record in time where the board is at, you know, in terms of, you know, April of 2022 for the report.
Oh, you're talking about the annual report
Yeah,
stuff?
annual report, yeah. Just wanna make sure your stuff goes in there as well
You
too.
want you want all my town manager reports to go into the
No,
annual
just the
report?
last one,
Oh, okay, all right,
sort of the last one that we've done. I think they're sort of,
okay.
I think they're sort of,
Is it all
sort of comprehensive of what's happened, so.
That's true, that's good.
It's a living, breathing document, but it'd be good at one point to PDF it and put it in the report, so it's been memorialized. Yeah, right.
It's a good idea.
When do are we printing our annual reports still, or we just,
No, we've only, I think we printed out 10 or 12 copies last year, hard copies. We have them available online, and if
Right.
people want them, they can
print on demand?
print,
kind
they
of?
can print them out, or they can ask us to print them one at their cost.
Do they have them at the library as well? Because people can look
I'll
at
have
them
to check
there.
with Corinne. I know that Corinne took them last year and had a certain amount of them. I think she wanted 20, and she didn't even use all 20 of them.
Yeah,
so-
they usually the senior center takes the most of them, but it's usually like 10, 20 at the most.
We haven't
And-
had a lot of people asking for
And
them. So.
the senior center with COVID's been pretty much shut
Right.
down for that, so. But I know some people would like to have the annual report in their hand.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
You have
All right, so
one on the
next
agenda.
item is the.
Excuse me, my hand has been raised. May I
Oh, yeah.
speak for a second? I'm sorry. Hi,
Go ahead, please introduce yourself.
so it's really bright out here. I'll lower my hand. So I'm a resident of Hamilton, and I just have a question about the,
Yeah, sorry, can you?
the
can you
climate
name and address,
group?
Please?
that's going to be meeting.
Sorry,
Can you
just need
hear
to
me
introduce you,
okay?
sorry, you need to just introduce you with your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, Deb Safford from 46 Maple Street.
Thank you.
So I just had a follow-up question. I did speak at the annual town meeting, and I do think it was a well-run meeting. I want to just also add to the small font question on the screen, that if there's also a way when they're reviewing what's in our paper document, if you could reference it to what the page number is, because it was really hard to see the numbers. But if we could know, okay, it's on page 10 in this book, that's what we're talking about. So for the finance committee, if that could be included in the feedback, that would be great.
Sure, so you're saying like if they're talking about one of the reports that's in the appendix, they could refer to where it
Yeah.
was and what paragraph or.
Exactly. Like if they could send us to that picture, that would be awesome. I mean, that page, so that, we would know, because I couldn't read, it was way too small. There was a lot of charts. And so I would spend a lot of time flipping through to try and see where are those numbers in this booklet. And it was hard to line them up. So if it's possible when they're talking about to say, now the numbers I'm reading are in this appendix or on this page, or I'm, just to point to the financials, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
The second thing is specific to the climate group that I know is being organized. I just had some questions or requests to see, as the group is forming, to see if this information could be considered. I'm wondering how the goals are established for the group. I'm wondering how the people are chosen to be on the group. I'm wondering if there's a way to avoid conflicts of interest from people who are put on the group, that they would not be benefiting in their jobs and in their employment by the decisions that are made, so that it's a neutral decision. I'm wondering if the changes that are recommended, if there's a cap as to when decisions are made to be approved in town meeting versus election, because hardly anyone comes to the town meeting. So I'm just wondering if there's a trigger for those changes. I'm also wondering if it's going to be considered external funds from activist organizations that would be influencing our town, because I did notice that change.org was posting the resolutions for the Hamilton group. and that is a political activist group. I'm also wondering if you're going to require specific comparative analyses to changes that are going to be recommended to make sure that we really have full information about converting a furnace that's fossil fuel versus the cost of ownership over the lifetime of it for other changes. So I'm just hoping that some of those comments, those questions and thoughts will be incorporated into the development of the group to make sure that the objective for the town is to be good stewards, but also be financially responsible. And again, I think what I said at the town meeting request is to be unemotional about the decisions, but to do things that make sense. We have a diverse population, as you know, in Hamilton, and different tax bases, and converting everything over to meet these very aggressive goals is expensive. And it all comes out of the taxpayers. Either, grants from the state are really just funded from tax dollars, or or they come with strings from organizations that are donating the money. So we just want to keep our tax base low and make smart decisions. And I'm hoping that some of those types of questions would be considered, hopefully, as the group is being formed.
Yeah, so thank you for your comments. I'll start with saying this is not on the agenda to debate, so we can't specifically debate your topics, but I wrote them all down.
Okay.
We will put on a future agenda exactly what you stated, because we weren't sure how it would go at town meeting, so we didn't have it on today's agenda. But on our future agenda, we will start the process for forming this committee. And so I can talk about in general, to join a committee in general in town, you have to fill out a sort of a volunteer form that you can get from town hall. And then sort of you put on that form what committees you'd like to be part of, then you need to sort of come and present and talk. So there's a whole process that we can go through that, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the committee. In terms of conflict of interest, there's very specific state conflict of interest laws that we all follow and have to do training every year and sign on to it. So yes, anybody who's a member of any committee or board in town needs to go through conflict of interest training. So that's done holistically across the town. It's very specific, very specific rules and regs on what defines conflict of interest. And if you need
So
questions.
people that are going to directly benefit from installation
There's a very
of a
specific, yeah,
windmill or
very
solar
specific
panels, they're going to do
language.
the install, and they're also making the decisions, or they're pushing the project forward. That would be
Yeah.
considered a conflict of interest.
Not exactly. You should read it. There's very specific conflict of interest language, so you should read that and educate yourself on what that is.
Okay.
And then in terms of external stuff, we cannot control what we're public. Everything we do is public record. We cannot control sort of who puts what we are doing on their websites. That's outside of our purview. So we may not like it sometimes, but we can't control. If we put something out there, somebody can photocopy it, they can mark it up, they can put it on their website, they can put it on social media. We unfortunately cannot control that. So that is not within our purview to dictate what other people are doing with our information. People are also welcome to come here and debate and talk to us about what their interests are. It doesn't mean that we take up their ideas and thoughts, but we listen to everybody. But yeah, it's hard for us to control. That's not our sort of our purview to control what they're doing. But yeah, good comments. I welcome you to come to that meeting and hopefully get involved in this process if you can help improve and benefit from what the goals will be for the town.
And that's going to be the next selectman meeting?
It may be, you just look at, we have a bunch of things on the
Check the
agenda, so
agenda.
it'll be within the next month. So just look at the agenda. We have not set the agenda yet. We'll set it next week.
Okay, sorry, I should have done this during the 3 minutes, but I wasn't.
That's okay.
No, it's good.
Remember
No,
that, so
thank you
sorry
for-
about that.
Thank
But
you
just
for
wanted to
attending
jump
tonight.
in since you brought it up.
Thank you for attending tonight, and thank you for your comments. And I made notes of everything you said, so we will
Okay.
make sure those get brought up again in a couple of weeks or when we meet on this topic. Anybody else want to?
Great, thank you.
I think you covered it.
Okay.
You heard the main things I wanted to say.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last
very much.
item on the agenda is to review the Project Bread Universal Free Lunch Resolution. I see there's someone on the Zoom to talk to that, so please introduce yourself and talk to us about your fabulous program.
Hi, I'm Erin McAleer. I live at 1 Appaloosa Lane in South Hamilton. I'm also a mom of a kindergartner at Winthrop, but I'm also the CEO of Project Bread, the statewide anti-hunger organization. As you likely know, universal free school meals have been in place throughout the pandemic. That was due to waivers from the federal government, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Those are set to end at the end of the school year. And so we are asking the state legislature to extend those meals. We have legislation pending, which would make them permanent. Maine and California are examples of 2 states that have already made that decision, but they're also looking at other vehicles, budgetary means to extend this program. You know, right now, food insecurity in Massachusetts remains incredibly high. Over 20% of families with children are food insecure, and that's double what it was before the pandemic. School meals have been the #1 source of free food throughout the entirety of this pandemic. There's been lots of research showing that they both prevented and alleviated hunger for families and for kids. And so this is not a budgetary consideration for this group. More, we're just asking for local government to make it clear to state government that this is a local priority. So what this would ensure, if this does not pass, Hamilton, Wenham would go back to the system we had in place before, which is where some kids receive free, some reduced, and families have to fill out applications. We know that that was a huge barrier to participation. I'm an example of a child that would have been eligible, and we did not apply for it. The barriers of applying and disclosing to the school what your own economic condition was a barrier enough for my family not to participate. We know there's many families who are not participating in school meals because of the cost and the stigma. Universal free school meals eliminated both of those. So the school committee passed a resolution, and so we're just asking this group to as well, and to share that with our local elected leadership, Senator Tarr, Rep. Belcito, and make it clear that this is a priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jamie, you were the one who sort of brought this up last week, so any comments you want to make, or?
Not a whole lot of other comments. Aaron did, obviously a very good job. We did talk about it at a few meetings ago, so this isn't the first time it's been discussed. And I think Aaron, when she and I talked today, she had also said that the state is maybe looking at extending it for 1 year, but not necessarily making it permanent. But I think it's important for towns like us to state our priorities, and that this should be one of them. There was a pretty nice article in the Boston Globe in like around March 20th or so. Was that what it was, Aaron? But that, I don't know, it's interesting reading anyway. That kind of goes into some of the more, like, why this is such a important thing for kids and for nutrition.
Many reasons.
Can I ask Aaron a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Hi, Aaron. Joe Domlovitz, Town Manager. Are the House and Senate bills being debated as part of the budget process, and what's your sense of the timing on when the legislature is going to take this up?
Sure. I also want to acknowledge I was just joined by a 5-year-old, so I apologize for her. She's supposed to be in bed. So there's a few different vehicles. One is the legislation, and ideally that would be passed by the Senate, the House, and signed by the governor. That would need to happen by the end of this calendar year, December 31st. As Jamie referenced, it also can be a budgetary consideration, and there's 3 different vehicles right now before the legislature. One is the federal ARPA funding. So the legislature could allocate funding for this through that. Another is just a traditional supplemental budget, and the third is through the FY23 budget. Those are all being discussed and debated right now as we speak, and those decisions are being made. So we think most likely the legislature will elect to do an extension, and then we at Project Bread will continue to fight to, again, make this permanent in the years to come.
I had just a logistical question. I will start by saying I'm 100% in favor of this. I just had a sort of a logistical question in terms of for planning, right? So the school has to plan for food per day. Is it harder so how do they manage planning for food per day when anybody can get food for free? So how do they sort of, instead of having a program where they sort of know in their back of their head what the numbers are, how does the school, so there's not food waste? How do they plan that? That was just my only sort of out of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time, no matter what. And that's the job of school nutrition directors, is to plan a menu that kids are going to eat. So even before the pandemic, they didn't know for sure how many kids were going to take, this meal or that meal. One thing that we do know is participation has increased dramatically with this. It's over 60% in Massachusetts of kids who are eating school lunch. It's increased so high. And so the reality is, if we have school nutrition directors that are focused on preparing healthy meals that are appealing to kids, participation rates will continue to increase. That's what we want them focused on, rather than focused on being debt collectors for kids who acquire meal debt or chasing applications or whatnot. So that's a common problem. And the goal obviously is for them to be able to make meals that they know they can kind of guess that we know the majority of kids are going to take this meal today. So they're constantly, even outside of universal free school meals, they're constantly doing that projection of how many kids are going to participate. And it's usually pretty consistent. And then it's also helpful. They know this meal was popular, this meal wasn't. So we'll take that one off the menu if kids aren't eating it.
It's like at home.
Yeah, exactly, just like at home. That's why we compost. Any other questions?
No.
So what do we need to?
I was
so
just gonna say, what's the next step here? We obviously,
Are we sending a letter into the reg?
So I think that the project right here has asked you to sign on to a resolution similar to the one that they provided you. You could take a vote to do this on our letterhead and send it in, and then let Rep. Belcito and Senator Tarr know. Or you could take a stab at doing your own resolution, or you could do a letter.
So Joe, we didn't say to vote on this tonight. Does that mean we can't vote?
It does not mean that
Doesn't
you
really
can't
matter.
vote.
the board can, whatever the will of the board is, really.
Yeah.
Since this is kind of our second reading of it, we could make a,
I mean, I haven't heard any sort of hesitations to it, but, and once again, I always think of the worst case scenario. There's no worst case scenario here. This is all positive. It's all good stuff. So, I'm prepared to sort of, authorize Joe to put the resolution on our letterhead, and then we can all come in and sign it, when it's ready, and send it off. That would be, I think would
Like
make
that.
sense. That makes sense, everybody?
So moved.
So moved.
second.
Second from Sean. All those in favor? Sorry, any further discussion?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Anybody else?
No, and I
out
think
there,
the
Joe?
language in this is perfectly
Yeah.
fine. We just gotta fill in the blanks there with Hamilton
Yep.
and et cetera.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, well, thank you for coming and speaking to
Yeah,
us on
thank you
this.
for speaking to us today. You're doing great work.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all you do.
Thanks.
God, we have such nice people in this town.
Darcy, I think it's your turn.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to move that we adjourn for the evening.
I have a second?
that.
Second
I'll
from
second.
Rose.
Surprise.
So, so any further discussion? So I hope to see you guys here next week, or in 2 weeks, so good luck, everyone.
We'll see.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you
we'll see.
very much.
All those
We
in
have to
favor?
vote, don't we?
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed? Okay.
Did I lose track?
And if
Where
some
do
of
I-
us are